Florence is often called La Bella, which means the beautiful one, a fitting name for the cradle of the Renaissance, a city that welcomed the greatest artists in world history, full of historic monuments, amazing architecture, and world-renowned pieces of art everywhere you turn. Let's pretend we are Leonardo da Vinci or Michelangelo and figure out how to get to the Renaissance city. Florence is the most populous city of the Italian region of Tuscany. It is accessible by plane, car, and train, the latter being my preferred way to reach Florence. The city is very well connected by the Italian train system, as it sits right in the middle of the country's main high-speed train line that connects the north and the south. High-speed trains from Rome take about 1 hour and 20 minutes, and just under 2 hours from Milan. When booking a train ticket, make sure you choose Firenze Maria Santa Novella station as your destination. Florence has other stations, however, Santa Maria Novella station, often referred to as Firenze SMN, is the closest one to the city center. Also, Firenze is the Italian name for the city, and you should remember it because train stations and ticket services use this name rather than Florence. Italy has two main train companies, Trenitalia or Italo. I have linked both of their websites in the description box. Simply go on the websites and search for the itinerary or route that is best for you. Florence has its own airport, Amerigo Vespucci Airport, which is a 24-minute drive away from the city center or a 30-minute ride on public transportation. Did you know that Amerigo Vespucci, whose name the word America is derived from, was born in Florence? Anyways, taxis from the airport to the city center start at a base rate of 22 euros during the day and 25 euros at night. Taxis might also charge extra fees depending on how many pieces of luggage you bring. The airport itself is not a big airport, but it is well connected with the rest of Europe. Alternatively, there are airports in Pisa and Bologna, both about 1 hour away from Florence by train. These two airports are bigger and more airlines fly there, including low-cost airlines. Finally, and probably the biggest mistake you can make, is to reach Florence by car. Yes, driving gives you the most freedom out of the three options, but it also takes the longest. And don't get me wrong, driving around Italy is a must for any travel fanatic like myself. I mean, who wouldn't love to do an Italian road trip, right? Especially if you're planning to explore Tuscany and do a tour of its picturesque vineyards, medieval towns, and rolling hills. The Tuscan countryside is unique, with historical cities like Pisa, Siena, Florence, and many others sprinkled around. Tuscany is synonymous with wine. The region's vineyards produce some of the best wines in the world. There are several wine tours and wine tastings that you should squeeze into your itinerary. And don't even get me started on the Tuscan cuisine. Yet, driving around Tuscany is a completely different thing than driving around Florence. Of course, you might be thinking that a car will allow you to have more mobility around the city, but this is not the case in Florence, since there is a limited traffic zone on the entirety of its city center. This restricted zone includes the main places to visit in Florence, such as Santa Maria del Fiore Cathedral, the Signoria Square, the Uffizi Galleries, the Accademia Gallery, and the Palazzo Pitti. You might be wondering, what exactly is this traffic restriction on the historic center? Well, the Zona a Traffico Limitato, or ZTL, as the locals know it, is a restriction on operating a motor vehicle within a specified area. There are ZTLs all over Italy, including Naples, Milan, and Rome. A ZTL intends to reduce congestion in high traffic areas and slow down the wear and tear of the historic city center. The zone is only open to residents' vehicles, taxis, and buses. Otherwise, you can only walk and cycle inside of it. Any other motor vehicle that enters the ZTL needs a permit to do so, or else they will get fined and or towed. Legend says that theoretically, you can get a temporary permit by requesting it through the official website. However, the website is not user-friendly at all, and very hard to navigate if you don't understand at least a little bit of Italian. In case you want to give it a go, I have linked the website in the description box. These two sections are probably your best bet at getting anywhere. Truly, good luck. If you manage to get a permit, please comment how did you manage to do it. You will be hailed by every tourist that has ever visited Florence. Now, let me explain how the ZTL in Florence works. This is the official map from the official website, which is very self-explanatory, right? Like I mentioned, the website is extremely bad. Thankfully, I found a better map that gives a better insight into the ZTL. Cars are restricted to enter sectors A, B, and O between 7:30 a.m. until 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, and from 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturdays. There is also a nightly restriction during the summer, starting the first Thursday of April until the first Sunday of October. I know it's impossible to memorize this map and timetables for the ZTL as a tourist. Still, you need to do your best to avoid the ZTL, since the fines for only entering the ZTL are at least 82 euros. And Florence is very strict on enforcing them. There are cameras shortly after every entry point that will snap a picture of any car's plate that violates the ZTL. As a matter of fact, Florence hands out so many traffic fines that it makes about 50 million euros per year. Even though Florence's case is outrageous, most cities that have a ZTL make a substantial amount of money from these fines. Thus, this raises the question why so many people get fined. Well, it all comes down to tourists. Tourists either don't know about the ZTL or ignore how to identify and read the ZTL signs. There are different types of signs. Some of them are very descriptive and clearly show in both Italian and English whether the ZTL is open or closed. Plus, newer signs like this one have been added to show clearly with a green light or red light if you can enter the ZTL or not. However, these signs are not always present, and you might have to resort to reading the old signs. Here's an explanation on how to do so. Also, as I mentioned, for Florence, this is a very lucrative business. So if you crossed into the ZTL during the restricted hours, be mentally prepared to receive a fine by mail. The Italian police has about 310 days to mail any fine, so it might take a long time. Nevertheless, do expect the fine on the mail at some point, even if you are on the opposite side of the world. Be mindful that usually rental car reservations do not include permits for the ZTL. This means that car rentals will charge you a fee for any fines placed on the car. Plus, they will give your information to the Italian police so that you receive that outstanding fine. If you really need to drive into Florence, there are some ways to avoid the feared fines. The easiest way is to contact your accommodation and ask them to inform the traffic authorities of your car's details. However, you need to make sure that they have done this before you drive into the ZTL, or you will get fined. If the hotel seems unwilling or you are unsure they have done so, park outside of the ZTL and then go to your hotel. Parking garages inside the ZTL can also follow this same procedure. Even if your hotel or parking garage have informed the authorities, you cannot go around the city driving. Park where you have been authorized to as soon as possible, or leave the ZTL and park outside of it. Parking outside the ZTL is another option to avoid fines. There are several parking areas and garages outside the ZTL, and then you can walk to the city center. Finally, you could also stay in the outskirts of the city, where parking will most likely be free, and then use public transportation to get to the main areas in the city. Okay, yeah, I know. That was a lot. However, I thought it was important to inform you of how complicated it can be to drive in Florence, or any Italian city that has a ZTL. But this doesn't take away from how beautiful the city is and everything that it has to offer. In the upcoming videos, we will explore the best of Florence and fall in love with the city that was once Italy's capital. If you have any questions, please write them in the comments and I will try to answer them. Consider subscribing, leaving a like, and have a great day.